Hello and welcome to another episode of CSE Update Clips. I'm Dimitri Giller, and joining me today is Vito Sanzone, CEO of Promino Nutritional Sciences, trading under the ticker symbol MUSL on the CSE. Vito, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dimitri. Good to see you.
So let's get started with the mid-year snapshot. The corporate update was just released. How did the first half of the year unfold for you?
First half of the year was what I call a holding pattern. We had a great comeback story in 25, selling lots of product. We sold out, and we were virtually inventory free for Q1 and Q2. Late Q2, we received our biggest ever production order of product. We are now shipped out to everybody, and sales are starting. So our July and the rest of the year are going to look fantastic.
Okay, so the biggest theme for the first half of the year was inventory constraints. How much did that impact the business?
Greatly. We had a run rate going into December of last year of about 300,000 to 400,000 a month. And come January 1st, we had to just limit our sales because scarcity of Rejuvenate. So we had to limit it to about 50 units a day going out the door, which is nothing. But in Q1 and Q2, we recorded about $350,000 of revenue. And that's tragic because that was a month before. Mm-hmm. So that was a tough go. But at the end of Q2, massive amounts of inventory have flowed into the warehouse, and we have shipped out to Amazon, big retail partners in the US, and TikTok and D2C. So all channels are ramping up.
Right. So you had a 3.5 million stick production run. How does that position the business?
That sets up the business. 3.5 million sticks of Rejuvenate sets up the business for about 5.5 million of top line revenue. So we think that's going to happen this year, but I also need to make more product by Q4 to get ready for next year.
Right.
It's a long production cycle.
Right. So that inventory is moving into retail now, Amazon, TikTok Shop, and also direct to consumer. How do you think about balancing those channels?
The best way to think about balancing those channels is bring them all on. We'll sell anywhere. I prefer being an e-commerce vendor. Amazon, TikTok, our own direct-to-consumer Shopify channel. Those we have much greater control, and in some of those cases, we get full customer information in return. So I like those. But retail is the American way, and you just got to do retail responsibly, roll out to not the Walmarts and Costco's that, if they fail, you could crush a company. So what we do is choose our bets, mid-sized companies and leaders in their, like leading pharmacies, CVS, Walgreens. We're favoring those. They have good turns, and they pay for inventory 30 days after receiving it. So very low risk.
Okay. You also launched DrinkReg in the US, so direct-to-consumer platform. What's the goal there? Is it customer experience, subscription, retention?
Yeah, let me explain. DrinkReg is the website. The product is Rejuvenate, and Rejuvenate, to make it short, is Reg. So DrinkReg is the new, fully developed e-commerce site. Now, here's what we changed there. It was to get a better input from the consumers. We asked them to self-select their muscle health needs. There's a choice of healthy aging, GLP-1 for weight loss, muscle support, surgery, recovery, things like that. In exchange for that all-important data from the customer, emails and addresses, we get that. Plus, we can funnel them the information shown to get them most likely to buy. And the subscription aspect was greatly enhanced. How to use it and what to expect when you're using Rejuvenate was greatly enhanced, as are a full set of recipes to make with the Rejuvenate product.
Okay, so let's double click on that retail expansion point. Promino Rejuvenate Muscle Health is now approaching 10,000 retail locations. How meaningful is that footprint for you?
Well, we just crossed 10,000, and so that's great. How meaningful? That's what I call good staged growth. because a consumer packaged goods company in our position, essentially we're 2 years old, to be in 10,000 stores, and they're not just 10,000 stores, they're the best ones. They're CVS. CVS came in, they loved the way it was performing, they added 2,000 more stores. And then we've got a growing couple of good chains have just come on in July. We're just shipping in July. And those will be important. That'll bring the total to about 12 or 13,000. And that's growth we can manage. We can meet those inventory requirements, and we're set to fill a couple more later in the year. They're meaningful. Where you want to be in 6 months is you want to be at 15 to 18,000 stores. Real impact happens when you get to 25,000 doors. That usually includes a Target and a Walmart in there as well. So that's the goal. 25, 30,000 doors is good. And that just tells you there's a meaningful velocity retail business.
Okay, so when you expand to these retail locations, what are you really looking for? Is it the sell-through rate? Is it consumer awareness?
Well, first you just want a buyer that recognizes the need and quality of the product, which is stage one. Because we sell a lot to pharmacy customers and grocery pharmacy customers, they know what their customers want, what they need. Like if they sell a lot of whey protein, which is a competitor of ours, that's an automatic, we'll look at it. Mm-hmm. Then when they hear our science, our distinguishing characteristics, they tend to love it. They usually try it for a few weeks, and they come back and say, okay, we're taking it in. Mm-hmm. And then it's about that partnership of how well it's marketed in the store. Now, there are your conventional promos and dollars off and rewards programs and things like that. But what we want is that full education, which we usually do some training videos and PDFs of information for their pharmacists, for their employees. We want them to understand the product and promote it one-on-one to customers. That's what we love.
Okay, so talk about the product strategy here. So I see the broader thesis here is really about muscle health, right, at large. So not just for athletes, but for aging adults, for recovery. How important is that space for you right now?
Muscle health is a giant unnamed category, and I think until we named it a couple months ago, the muscle health platform is usually considered to be part of protein. Protein is a $30 billion global thing every year, growing at about 10% a year. So I've sold in my life billions of dollars of whey protein for brands like Muscle Tech and MHP and Six Star and all of that. I think I know whey protein pretty well, and I know its limits. Great way to add calories, great way to add bulk and muscle, but it doesn't work long term very well. Consumers age out of it. So whey protein is kind of right when it's described as a young athlete, early pro career, collegiate career athlete who needs to recover from a 2-hour hockey game, 3-hour baseball game, whatever. Amino acids do the same thing much quicker without the calories, the dairy, the fillers, and all of the thickness of a whey protein shake. And it's much more accessible. So these are plant-based amino acids, which is a big point. A lot of amino acids, or the bulk of them out there, are animal-based in their bones and feathers of animals. And certain populations don't like that. So we go plant-based because we believe they're more readily accessible and they're better to flavor. So and then you don't get floating particles in a drink. Nobody wants to see that, right? So when you mix our drink, it is a clear colored, the color of the flavor, and tastes great. It's flavored water, essentially, that builds muscle much quicker and much more effectively and efficiently than whey protein.
Right. So one of the more interesting updates I found was the Muscle Health Research Initiative using GLP-1 weight loss management therapies. Why do you think that's the right place to start?
Because customers told us, like, what's happening is GLP-1 came out of nowhere, it seems. Like one day you heard about it, the next day it's 20 million people, 30 million people in the States taking GLP. And everybody reports the great weight loss. And then you start seeing the great muscle loss. And the facts are ugly. The facts are, yeah, you lose weight. Let's take a typical person who gets on GLP-1 to lose 40 or 50 pounds. That typically isn't an active person to start with, right? So they lose the weight. They also lose up to 40% of their muscle mass. And that's why you see this phenomenon called Ozempic face, where people look withdrawn and haggard. And that's muscle tone and lean muscle disappearing. That's a very dangerous thing. Well, yeah, you can see it, but secondary, that affects your organ function, your skin, hair, it affects everything. Amino acids are critical for the sustenance of muscle. And muscles feed every organ in our body. So you gotta keep them healthy. And that GLP-1, while effective for weight loss, is very damaging for muscles. Now, next generation GLP is trying to change that a little bit, but that's years off. So in the meantime, our customers are telling us this is the product they go to. Because when you're on GLP-1, apparently you have very little appetite. You can't drink a whey protein shake. You can't even have a Boost or Ensure too easily, right? You have a limited capacity for appetite. And I guess that's why it works, but this is water. Yep.
So you've continued to build brand awareness through broader sports relationships and partnerships. How do those partnerships play in today's business?
Athlete partnerships in the supplement business is probably common. I just know in my career, I've worked with all these household names, mostly for Muscle Tech and Six Star and brands like that, that were primarily sports focused. This is not just sport focused. We have a different product called Promino that is made for athletes, high performance athletes. So Jack Eichel of the Vegas Golden Knights was our first ambassador on this product. And he shares it with his friends on the team. And when the Las Vegas Knights went into the Stanley Cup, we got a panicked phone call from their trainer saying, you got to send us 40 bags of Promino right away. And, we overnighted it from here to Vegas. And they started using it the day I guess he shared it with the whole team. And that was great. Now, they didn't win, but they put up a great fight, and they certainly recovered well.
Yeah, so. I think you could take some credit there for their recovery.
Yeah.
So the main value, it looks like, is really trust and customer acquisition.
Yeah, and a little beyond that is José Bautista came into the company. We have a long relationship going back 15 years to when he was with the Jays hitting 50 home runs. José Bautista owns probably one of the more iconic moments in Toronto sports, the 2015 game in the ALCS against Texas, the bat flip homer that everybody knows and loves. We were proud to have him on board at that company, but he struck me as one of the more informed, educated athletes who truly cared about supplementation. As an athlete, he wanted to extend his career. He wanted to not be on the sick bed after every game. He wanted to be on the field full and ready. And he knew that this attention to muscle health was critical. I was impressed. He hired all kinds of trainers and nutritionists, aside from the Blue Jays, what they offered, to help him extend his career that way. And it worked for him. When I took over this, he was one of the first people I sent it to, and he said, I'm all in, I love it. And he's become a very important partner. In fact, right now we're kicking off a project where Promino is going to seek significant U.S. investment into our CSE company from Cokes, Pepsi's, Nestle's, or any number of sports family funds, which there are a lot in the States with significant capital. We're in those conversations now. Jose's helping us because he can pick up the phone and get any one of those sports funds in the room. So not only is it money, and we need capital to keep feeding the beast, right? But it's relationships that he has, and we got a lot of athletes now, big names, coming up to us saying, I want to be on it, I want to be in it. So that's a great thing to have. So I can't tell you the names here, but you'd all know them, and we think that's going to help this company survive.
Fantastic. Well, hopefully you can share the names with us later on. Let's move on to what's coming up next. So we've discussed the infrastructure building phase of the company. Now we're moving towards the commercial execution phase. So do you feel the company's at an inflection point now?
Yes, being out of inventory for a few months is never good. But like I said, inventory's arrived. Our next job is to get $5 million plus of revenue in this year, and doing it, in 6 months. And that's a big lift, but the little team we have is highly motivated, and we're getting it done. So the early results, just to give you a point, our July revenue will probably exceed our entire first quarter.
Fantastic. So for investors and followers looking into the second half of 2026, what milestones should they look out for?
There's a couple big milestones. One, I've gone out saying our target is $5 million revenue. If we start reporting like a good Q3, you'll kind of know whether we're going to meet that or not, and I predict we will. And second is TikTok, the launch of the TikTok Shop USA. Now, TikTok came out of nowhere to become this massive sales channel. And specifically for companies like ours, supplement companies that are in this price range. We just started. It's a lengthy process to get that machine rolling, but they're stocked with inventory, and it's all about getting creators, the people who make the videos. And it's like, here's a little news. It's the same creators that do it for 10 different brands. They're not loyal to anybody. They're just hired talent, like actors. And they come in. So our job is to poach the good ones. Mm-hmm. And you can see, you have a dashboard, you can see all of their revenue over the last 30 days. That kind of tells you who's hot, who's not. And we have a diverse customer base for this product. So we try to find, aging people. We try to find mothers of busy children. We find GLP-1 people. And we target to each of those audiences. And 10 days in, we're literally 10 days into TikTok, we've already poached what I call the top 8 creators. Mm-hmm. And the videos are starting to run. One of them in 24 hours had 4,000 views, which is a nice start. Mm-hmm. But we'll see, we're seeing the revenue start, but it's not going to be significant revenue until, here's the date, answer your question. A milestone for us will be if we get to the end of Q3 and have decent TikTok revenue, and we'll know it when you see it, that means that's winning there. And that could potentially triple in the next year.
Okay. So can we expect a TikTok of you in the future?
I am not fit for camera, as you can see, so probably not. I have a young crew that does some TikTok videos. Fantastic. I won't touch it.
Great. Well, Vito, thank you so much for coming out.
Pleasure.
Great catching up with you today.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.